All right. I hate having to cover this story because it's sad, and it's one of those things where it seems like information's being just kind of trickled out. But once again, there's been a shift in the narrative that has significantly changed the implications of it. First, it was an Antifa guy shot somebody out of nowhere. Then you find out no, it's a guy who was hired as part of security for a news crew. Except now he's not part of security for a news crew. Now he's just security for one of the, I guess, Channel 9 NBC's producers. And then you watch the video and you're like, okay, so these other dudes are arguing, and this other guy basically steps in and gets aggressive, and then he gets slapped, and then he pulls a gun out and he shoots the other guy, and it's like, whoa, that's what the hell, right? And you wonder, is this just a really bad decision making, or is this actually like somehow rooted in hatred or something, right? You just don't know. But now Tucker, I don't like the way Tucker framed this whole thing. I do have complaints about Tucker. I don't give him a pass on everything. I generally like him, but he kind of framed things a little slanted. But he interviewed John Tieg. Now, John Tieg, he's one of the Benghazi survivors. Tegan's credibility is impeccable. I have absolutely no reason to doubt anything Tegan is saying. Now, of course, you can't really say, oh, what he said is fact until we get a little more basically either photo evidence or more corroboration. But I actually believe what Tegan's saying, Tieg, as he's called. And what he's saying is that essentially the agitator, the guy in the Black Guns Matter shirt, the NBC producer, who was one of the guys who's just kind of in the mix, who was the one this security guard guy was assigned to, they were all coordinating. Or at the very least, they were together. And this guy, Teague's talking about basically how essentially earlier in the day, not just like, up to, when they're trying to leave, because their whole rally wasn't really that long. This dude's getting in, the Black Guns Matter guy is getting in people's faces, calling them racist. He's calling the black people who were there, house gentlemen, but of course, obviously the not so nice way to put that. And, typical kind of agitator, I want to go start a fight. He's seeing him scream in people's face, say, shoot me, like, okay, so that's why he was there. I don't know why he had a Black Guns Matter shirt on. Like, doesn't he know that's like a right wing thing? Whatever. Maybe that was just. I don't know why this guy was here, and the producer for whatever reason was following this guy around because A, he was with him and knew him, or B, it's just that he wanted to get the confrontation. This guy was being the most confrontational. Now, this causes. I should say this turns it into a conspiracy in the truest in the truest sense of the word. Were the agitator, the producer, and the guard coordinating? It seems like the pump was primed for some sort of altercation to happen, and for whatever reason, they wouldn't give it. Basically, this guy in the shirt who was screaming in their faces, couldn't get it out of them. And obviously they weren't, happy with being harassed by this guy. And, according to Teague, basically that just eventually bubbled up. And then the guy, and I saw, it's the thing, there's more photos and stuff you can see. At first it's like, oh, well, he slapped him and then he maced him and then he got shot. Well, there's actually more to it because the other guy, first the guard guy stepped in, because he wanted to intervene with the agitator and the other guys who were yelling each other's face, which he should have been. If he really thought there needed to be intervention and nobody's life was in immediate danger, he should have went and got the police. But also the fact that it seems like he was friends with this guy, maybe he was stepping in. But basically, short version being, he actually does push, and he actually accosts. Granted, not that hardcore, but he accosts the guy who ends up shooting first, actually. And they kind of have a minor altercation, results in the other guy kind of knocking him basically knocking his glasses down. Didn't hit him that hard, and that's when the gun comes up, and the other guy then raises his mace, and he sprays it either at the same time when he gets shot, or he sprays it a split second before. It's kind of unclear. Either way, yeah, that is really, really, really poor judgment to pull your weapon in that type of situation. Let alone fire it when somebody is literally backing away from you because they don't want confrontation. Oh no, you got slapped in the face. Well, yeah, but you got in the guy's business, and now that he's stepping away, you need to de-escalate. So this guy, it's not really a surprise. Also, oh, he didn't have a license to be a security guard. Now I've heard these arguments saying, well, Denver requires it, but Colorado doesn't. So maybe that's how he was on the list. It doesn't matter. But it is pretty clear that this guy this guy here, he was not really professional security because he did not act in a professional manner. I mean, you can see a look on his face. I think he realized pretty quickly, oh, this was a mistake, you know. And I'm just it's crazy because like it didn't turn into what normally happens at events like this where everybody just starts running different directions. People got out of the way of the cops, but nobody was like, "Oh my God, mass shooter, run!" It just was shocking. And even the look on his face, if you see like the photos of right after he shot the guy, it was like, oh no. But either way, the cops are going to have to interview. I should say, Tieg he's saying that the argument that was occurring between the Black Guns Matter guy who was calling the agitator and these other people, that was connected to why this guy stepped in, because he had been previously associated with the guy who was now getting in the face and screaming at the people. NBC could be in a lot of trouble. Maybe not. Maybe this is just their producer because, you know, the camera crew was doing something else, as we could tell, because they did have a camera and it was pretty far away. So one of their producers maybe is going to be in trouble as well. Pinkerton, I don't know. They're you know, because of their attorneys and stuff, they're not going to be releasing all the information right off the bat. But they claim it was a subcontractor. They should really vet their subcontractors, really, especially in these types of situations. But, you know, they probably have never had a problem before, and now suddenly they got a problem. He's an Antifa left-wing sympathizer. Well, I mean, yeah, I believe that. I mean, a lot of people are. Does that mean he went there with the intention to kill somebody? I think if he was intending to kill somebody, I don't think he would have killed somebody in front of the cameras like that. And I'm not saying he's not responsible for this guy's murder. I'm not saying that this wasn't pretty cold-blooded and a really poor sense of judgment. But, you know, let's just say if it was a setup, you know, it was coordinated, it was really poorly coordinated because this guy's going to jail probably for the rest of his life. Yeah, I'm saying that, and the Denver DA probably is going to release him and say, nope, did nothing wrong. You know, oh, he was scared. He was scared for his life by the big fat veteran. I don't know. So I just wanted to basically touch on one more time because this story, it keeps getting more and more weird and more complicated. I believe John Teagan. I believe what he's saying. And I believe this guy, if he didn't intend to murder somebody, I should say, you know, set out that day intending he's going to shoot one of these people, he has extremely, extremely poor judgment. That NBC producer had extremely poor judgment to be associating with an agitator. All right, you can kind of stay in the area to see what's going on if you want to, you know, film or do whatever you're doing or write down or interview people. I've got no problem with him talking to the guy, right? But that was extremely poor judgment for when basically this guy starts trying to start a fight with the Patriot guys, and then your guard is going over to intervene. I mean, that is not a good look. But we'll find out. I have a certain amount of confidence that there's enough video evidence in this case where the right thing will be done. Maybe that's overly optimistic. I mean, maybe it is in light of, you know, like Kyle Rittenhouse being he's being prosecuted, and despite the video evidence that pretty much shows that he's fine. So, you know, maybe I'm being too optimistic here. But I do want to give a chance for the justice system to play itself out. Let's not freak out. let's not, I mean, at least the right isn't out there demanding a head. Every time an Antifa person gets like steamrolled, they, or gets, knocked by a car because they're standing in the middle of the road, Antifa immediately demands, oh, you hit one of ours, we're gonna hit two of yours, and it's like, yeah, that's great. The right doesn't do that, thank God, right? So luckily, I don't think this is going to be a flashpoint of escalation. But it is showing, like, I mean, even if he's wrong, if his defense is going to be he felt his life was threatened because the evil white supremacist in the hat with the mace, right? That's going to be probably his defense. And if that is the case, and let's assume he's being genuine, that he really is afraid of these people, or say he's afraid of the right, right? He's not the only. He didn't necessarily even do that to himself. I mean, this is what the left is saying, right? They're saying that the John Tiegans of the world and the kind of chubby veteran guys who are showing up to these things are let's see, he was threatened by this guy. Apparently, he felt he's gonna say, at least, he felt threatened enough to pull the trigger on this guy. And because he's probably carrying all the preconceived notions, everything that MSNBC and CNN are telling him, and his insane Antifa supporting Facebook friends are telling him, that these guys are secret white supremacists who, he's got no problem pulling the trigger on that guy. Right? It's still a problem, but I'm also not ready to, burn this guy at the stake. He deserves a trial. He absolutely deserves a trial. This guy didn't deserve to die. We're pretty sure of that, right? This does look like it's murder. And if what John Tegan's saying, it seems like there was basically other factors in play. But yeah, so this guy, like him being associated directly with the producer and the bodyguard, that's going to cause a major issue for Rusty69. Sorry. That's pretty funny. That's going to cause a major issue for the defense in this case, because it's going to come off as premeditated, and it's going to come off as essentially, you guys knew this guy was being aggressive. You guys even talked to this guy. You guys associated with this guy, and when this guy continued to escalate things, you still stepped in when there was no threats, there was nothing, and there was cops 2 seconds nearby, and you stepped in and you decided to not protect your client, but pull your gun on somebody and shoot them. After pushing into them, right? It's not looking good in terms of my guess is this guy's going to plead down. Probably he's going to be hit with first-degree murder. He's going to plead down, and NBC is going to beg him to take the deal. Because NBC now could also be liable. They could be basically, assisting with essentially, I guess it would be negligent manslaughter, assisting in some way, because they would be, they helped create the conditions by essentially, following this guy around and not getting the police, not trying to step in and basically the NBC guy, he's profiting off of this guy being an agitator, and he's profiting because he gets his footage, he gets to push his narrative. But now they've made a mistake, and now somebody's been shot. So, Tieg's pretty upset about this. I mean, you could tell. It's just, this is just some random veteran who just got absolutely blasted because some jackass at NBC wanted a story. This makes a lot more sense. I couldn't hear what this guy was saying in some of the videos, but this guy here, there's more stuff coming out. Like, basically, he was picking a fight all day with everybody getting in their face, screaming at them, especially the minorities who were with this veterans group, right? It was called I think T called it a Patriot Muster or something like that. Like that was the event. Yeah, I mean, I think what's crazy is like there wasn't I didn't see a lot of other counter protesters. It seems like it was just like this guy was just getting in everybody's face. So we'll find out. I mean, here's the thing. If we find out this guy is there and he arrived in the same car with the security guy, with the NBC guy, or they had met up and they were all friends and knew each other, they're going to be in some trouble. Like, all of them, and the NBC probably is going to have to pay some sort of settlement because they enabled it. But we don't know. They could have just been birds of a feather, You gotta left wing whack job. You've got a guy who's a security guard who's a left winger, and you've got a news producer from a major city who's probably a left winger, and maybe they just all felt at home together. All right, so it may be completely innocent. Either way, this guy made a huge mistake. I think this is the producer. Is that a camera he's got? Yeah, I'd be putting my hands up too. These guys showing up, man. They're not gonna, hey, credit to him. He did do the right thing when the cop showed up. He immediately got on the ground with his knees and dropped the gun. He didn't act a fool in that sense. And that's why I don't think it was like, oh, Antifa did a hit. They would not have done a hit in broad daylight. It would have been more like what happened in Portland. So I don't think it's that, but I think it's more of a just grandeur irresponsibility on behalf of the left, not realizing that essentially if you are trying to get agitation out of the crowd and then you start picking a fight with people and then like this guy here, like this is bad news. Like this is not the guy you want to follow around and hang your hat on. And particularly you don't want to intervene because you're going to, something like this can happen. We'll find out. Lots of people are going to get sued. Pinkerton's going to have to deal with stuff. I expect I expect whoever their subcontractor is going to have to probably deal with stuff. NBC for hiring them is probably going to have to deal with stuff. We'll see. This guy also could take the full fall. He could say he acted on his own and he made a bad decision and he could plead down and he could take all the responsibility and it could essentially basically his employer probably will have to pay the subcontractor and then maybe Pinkerton doesn't have to do anything because it was just completely his poor judgment. Right? Not impossible. It's also possible that, maybe they do a little more digging and they find out he's part of some sort of left-wing activist group and that was what that other guy was there and they were trying to get, footage of fighting just to, get the big story about how violent the right is. And then they weren't getting what they needed, and this guy made the really, really, really terrible mistake of pulling his gun out and shooting. So, I don't know. You don't know. We don't know. We will find out. I believe John Tieg, but this is going to be interesting. I will jump back into it if more stuff gets released. I thought this interview was enlightening. That's why I'm particularly talking about this. Otherwise, there's really not that much. There's not that much new information. But the whole thing about connecting the basically connecting the shooter, the guy who the shooter was basically being who was paying him to be with him, so the NBC producer, and the guy who's the agitator, all having been associated with each other at the very least earlier in the day, to Tieg's witness and to I'm sure everybody else who's there because I'm sure the cops are questioning everybody. That is actually important because that means that there's a little more going on to what was going on than just simply two guys who are arguing and then this guy got involved when he shouldn't have. No, it seems like they did know each other, or at least they'd become acquainted with each other at the very latest earlier in that day. So it's interesting. It's sad. I hope there's justice, but I'm not the kind of person who is like, yeah, okay, hang this guy, burn him. Yeah, he did something really, really, really bad. But there might be other evidence where he was, misled. Maybe, we don't know. We don't know. Is it looking like murder? Yes, it does. It absolutely does. But there's a court process for a reason. I think, I don't know if there's a GoFundMe or something for this guy's family because, they need to be taken care of. This guy didn't deserve to die. But let's let things play out before we start demanding heads roll. That's what Antifa does. They say, oh, look at this. I guess we got to kill 2 NBC employees. Like that's what they would do if this guy was from the right and he had made this kind of mistake. So I hope there's justice. I won't hold my breath, but I will hope, and I'll at least let it play out before you start demanding heads to roll or extra layers of conspiracy or something like that. Let's see what the courts find. Hopefully, this is a wake-up call for these news organizations to not get in the middle of stuff because this is the kind of thing that happens. NBC 9 in Denver, they're going to be scarred with this incident probably for the next 20 years at least. Like they're going to probably actively lose viewers. They're probably going to have protests outside their building and all that kind of stuff. And here's the thing: it may just be one producer who's an asshole, or maybe actually They legitimately didn't know. It might, but you got to screen your people, and this is why you got to screen your people, right? You know, would this even be would this be a story if this guy had been like a, if he had a MAGA hat on or something, if he was like a Trump supporter, right? And then somehow this altercation happened, and then he ended up shooting each other. Yeah, the left would probably be gloating about it, but it wouldn't be nearly as it wouldn't be nearly as spicy and controversial as it is, because NBC, maybe if you've got a producer who's in the mix of people and you want to have a bodyguard, maybe you should hire somebody who's a professional. This guy was not a professional, and someone is dead because this guy didn't know what the hell he was doing. And NBC put this guy in. NBC put him in this position. NBC facilitated the other guy who was arguing in the Black Lives Matter because he was an agitator. He was getting attention. Oh my God, we're gonna interview him. He's gonna get his righteous truth or anger out. And they put this guy in this position because this guy wouldn't have been there to basically try to push his way in and cause problems. So NBC ain't out of the woods, but we have to wait. We have to find out. I recommend looking up this segment if you can. Someone uploaded it on Silent Kings. I don't know. There's a lot of time within the first week. Tucker's shows get uploaded, and eventually Fox either claims them or deletes them. But sometimes that's the only way to get segments, unless you have the NVR or DVR hooked up to your TV and then putting that on it's a pain in the ass. So yeah, if you want to see the whole segment, I recommend you just look it up. Yeah, Duck Carlson, 10, 12, 20. It's towards the second 2/3 of the show. I think it's right after one of the commercial breaks. Right, probably pillows, right? No, actually, no. It's actually after he talks to a doctor. What's his face? But yeah, they were knocking. That was the other thing. Antifa also yesterday is knocking over statues of Abraham Lincoln. Great, right? But that stuff aside, yeah. All right, just this story. Be patient.